6 months after the battle that changed everything, the galaxy had transformed into something completely different from what had existed before. The Velthic Empire was gone forever, and in its place was a new order built on cooperation instead of conquest. Humanity had become the reluctant guardians of galactic peace, and the responsibility was enormous. The former Velthic territories were being rebuilt with help from Earth's advanced technology and resources. Billions of beings who had lived under alien oppression for generations were learning what freedom meant. The process was not always smooth, but it was progressing better than anyone had expected. President Han Wu stood before the Galaxy Council for the first time in person. The human leader had traveled to the capital world to address the assembled representatives of hundreds of different species. His speech would outline humanity's vision for the future of galactic civilization. The council chamber was packed with delegates from across the galaxy. Many species that had been conquered by the Velthic were now free to participate in galactic politics for the first time in centuries. The energy in the room was electric with anticipation and hope. People of the galaxy, President Han Wu began. Today marks a new beginning for all of us. The age of fear and oppression is over. Earth offers our friendship and protection to all peaceful worlds. We will share our technology and knowledge with those who seek to build rather than destroy. The offer was unprecedented in galactic history. No single species had ever possessed the military might to guarantee peace across such a vast area of space. But humanity had proven they could back up their words with action. The defeat of the Velthic Empire had demonstrated Earth's power beyond any doubt. Ambassador Tamin had worked tirelessly to negotiate the new galactic treaties. The elderly diplomat had spent decades building relationships with alien species, and now those connections were invaluable. The political framework that would govern the new order was complex but necessary. Dr. So Young had established the Galactic Research Institute, where humans worked alongside alien scientists to develop new technologies for peaceful purposes. The same innovation that had created Earth's devastating weapons was now focused on healing exploration and improving life across the galaxy. The Institute's first project was developing new medical treatments using a combination of human and alien knowledge. Diseases that had plagued certain species for millennia were being cured using hybrid technologies that no single civilization could have created alone. Captain Sun-Ho had been promoted to Admiral of Earth's expanding fleet. His ships patrolled the former Velthic territories, ensuring that the transition to freedom proceeded smoothly. The human military had become the galaxy's police force, and the responsibility was taken seriously. The Admiral met regularly with representatives from liberated worlds to discuss their security needs. Many planets that had been stripped of their defensive capabilities by Velthic occupation needed help rebuilding their militaries. Earth was providing training and equipment to help them protect themselves. Commander Jin'e had been appointed as the director of Earth's new Galactic Security Division. The young officer who had coordinated the defeat of the Velthic Empire was now responsible for maintaining peace across hundreds of star systems. Her command center had expanded into a massive facility that monitored threats across the entire galaxy. The transformation of galactic society was remarkable to witness. Worlds that had lived in constant fear for centuries could now focus on science, art, and culture instead of military defense. Trade flourished as species no longer worried about piracy or invasion from aggressive empires. Lieutenant Commander Sojin had established a new academy on Earth where young officers from different species learned to work together. The human military was sharing its advanced tactics and strategies with allied forces. The goal was to create a unified defense network that could prevent future wars. The Academy's first graduating class included representatives from over 50 different worlds. These officers would return to their home planets with knowledge of human military doctrine and the equipment needed to implement it. The galaxy was becoming safer with each passing month. General Dong Haiyan coordinated the massive humanitarian effort required to rebuild the former Velthic territories. Entire star systems needed new infrastructure and governance structures. Earth's resources were being stretched to their limits, but the work was essential for long-term stability. The former Velthic capital world had been transformed into a center for galactic cooperation. The massive military installations were being converted into research facilities and cultural centers. The planet that had once been the heart of an oppressive empire was becoming a symbol of hope and unity. Captain Jay Wu commanded a special task force responsible for hunting down the remaining Velthic loyalists who refused to accept their empire's defeat. Small groups of alien extremists were still trying to cause trouble in remote systems. These remnants needed to be eliminated before they could reorganize. The task force had captured several Velthic commanders who were wanted for war crimes committed during the empire's expansion. These aliens would face trial before an international court that included representatives from the species they had oppressed. Justice was finally being served. The economic impact of the new galactic order was enormous. Trade routes that had been controlled by the Velthic Empire were now open to all peaceful species. Resources that had been hoarded by the aliens were being distributed fairly among the liberated worlds. Earth's technological superiority had created new industries almost overnight. Human innovations in energy production, transportation, and communication were being licensed to alien civilizations. The profits from these arrangements helped fund the massive reconstruction efforts. President Tianwu announced the creation of the Galactic Development Fund, which would provide low-interest loans to worlds that needed help rebuilding their economies. The fund was backed by Earth's vast resources and would ensure that no peaceful civilization was left behind in the new order. The psychological impact of the changes was just as important as the economic benefits. Entire generations of beings who had grown up under Velthic oppression were learning what it meant to live without fear. Children were being born into a galaxy where their futures were determined by their own choices rather than alien overlords. Ambassador Taemin had been elected as the new chairman of the Galaxy Council. The elderly diplomat's decades of experience and his species' military power made him the natural choice to lead the organization. His first priority was establishing a permanent peacekeeping force. The new peacekeeping force would be made up of volunteers from across the galaxy, but would be trained and equipped by Earth's military. Human officers would serve as advisors and coordinators, but each species would maintain control over their own troops. The goal was cooperation rather than domination. Dr. So Young had become one of the most respected scientists in the galaxy. Her work at the Galactic Research Institute was revolutionizing everything from agriculture to space travel. The combination of human innovation and alien knowledge was producing breakthroughs that benefited everyone. The Institute's latest project involved developing new terraforming technologies that could make barren worlds habitable in decades rather than centuries. Millions of refugees from the former Velthic territories would soon have new homes where they could rebuild their lives in peace. The surviving Velthic people were being relocated to peaceful agricultural worlds where they could rebuild their civilization without the militaristic culture that had led to their downfall. The process was voluntary, but most aliens chose to participate rather than face continued isolation. The rehabilitation program was showing promising results. Young Velthic who had grown up under the Empire's propaganda were learning about cooperation and peaceful coexistence. Many of them were expressing interest in contributing to the galaxy's reconstruction efforts. Captain Sungho's fleet had grown into the largest military force in galactic history. But unlike the Velthic Empire, these ships were used to protect rather than conquer. The mere presence of human vessels in a star system was enough to deter most potential aggressors. The Admiral's forces had prevented dozens of potential conflicts in the months since the Empire's fall. Border disputes that might have led to wars were being resolved through negotiation backed by the implicit threat of human intervention. Peace was being maintained through strength. Commander Jinei's intelligence network had identified several other potentially aggressive species that might try to fill the power vacuum left by the Velthic collapse. These civilizations were being closely monitored and diplomatic pressure was being applied to discourage any expansionist ambitions. The new galactic order was not perfect, but it was infinitely better than what had existed before. Billions of beings who had lived under oppression were now free to determine their own destinies. Trade and culture were flourishing in ways that had been impossible under Velthic rule. As the first anniversary of the Great Battle approached, the galaxy prepared to celebrate the day that changed everything. The holiday would be known as Liberation Day and would be observed by every free world. It would commemorate not just humanity's victory, but the birth of a better future for all. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was huge and filled with beings from across the stars. The walls were made of crystal that sparkled with different colors, and the ceiling was so high it seemed to touch the clouds inside this massive room. Hundreds of alien delegates sat in their special seats, waiting for the daily meeting to begin. Ambassador Taemin from the Vorthan Empire walked slowly to the center of the hall. His blue skin shined under the bright lights, and his red eyes looked around at all the other aliens watching him. He was tall and strong, with scales that covered his body like armor. His people were known as great warriors who had conquered many worlds before Council Leader Hyjin sat on her throne made of pure energy. Her body was like living crystal that changed colors when she moved. She had been leading the council for over 200 years and had seen many wars and peace treaties. Her voice was like music when she spoke, and everyone always listened carefully to her words. Elder Dongwu was the oldest member of the council. He looked like a giant tree with branches for arms and leaves that rustled when he was thinking. His people lived for thousands of years, and he had seen the rise and fall of many civilizations across the galaxy. His wisdom was respected by all the other council members. Young diplomat So Young from the Peaceful Traders Union sat nervously in her seat. She was new to the council and still learning about all the different alien species. Her people looked like humans but had silver skin and could read minds. They were known for being peaceful and never starting wars with anyone. The meeting began like any other day with reports about trade routes and peace agreements between different planets, but then Ambassador Taemin stood up and asked to speak. The whole room became quiet as he walked to the speaking platform in the center of the halley. "Have an announcement to make," Taemin said in a loud voice that echoed through the hall. "My people, the Vorthan Empire, have decided to invade the third planet of the Sol system. We will take Earth for ourselves." The silence in the hall was so deep you could hear a pin drop. All the delegates looked at each other with surprise and fear on their faces. Council Leader Hyjin stood up quickly, her crystal body flashing bright red, which meant she was angry. "Ambassador Taemin," she said in a stern voice, "surely you are joking. The humans of Earth are under our protection. They signed the first contact treaty only 50 years ago. We promised to keep them safe while they learned about the galaxy." But Taemin shook his head and his red eyes blazed with determination. "The humans have something we need," he said. "Their planet sits on the most valuable hyperspace route in this part of the galaxy. Ships can travel faster through their system than anywhere else. We need that route for our trade ships and war fleets." Elder Dongwu rustled his leaves nervously. "Have you studied the human military reports?" he asked in his deep voice like wind through trees. "The humans are not like other species. They fight differently than anyone else we have seen." "Different how?" Taemin laughed and waved his hand dismissively. "They are a young species who just learned to fly in space 50 years ago. They have primitive weapons that shoot metal bullets and no energy shields. Our scientists say their technology is at least 500 years behind ours." The council members all looked worried because they knew things about humans that Taemin did not know. They had read the secret reports from the border wars where humans had fought alongside other species against space pirates and alien raiders. The reports were classified because they were too scary for most species to read. Young diplomat So Young stood up slowly, her silver skin shining with nervous sweat. "Sir," she said in a quiet voice, "maybe we should review the human combat records from the border wars before you make this decision." Taemin turned to look at her with anger in his red eyes. "Those were small fights," he said loudly. "Nothing important, just a few raids by space pirates. This will be a full-scale invasion with our entire fleet. We have 10,000 warships and 5 million soldiers. The humans have maybe 300 ships and a few million troops." He walked around the speaking platform with confidence. Our weapons can destroy their cities from space, he continued. Our shields can stop anything they shoot at us. Our soldiers are trained from birth to fight and conquer. Our victory will be complete in less than 1 week. But the council members knew something that Taemin did not understand. Humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were something new and dangerous in the galaxy. They did not fight like other civilizations who used logic and strategy and followed the rules of Wartha. Humans fought with something that scared even the bravest alien warriors. They fought with pure determination and the refusal to give up even when facing certain death. They used their creativity to turn anything into a weapon. They made war into an art form that no other species could understand. Ambassador Yunho from the Trader Alliance had seen human soldiers in action during the border wars. He remembered how they had defeated an entire pirate fleet using nothing but metal containers filled with explosives and the willingness to sacrifice themselves for victory. We launch our invasion in 7 solar days, Taemin announced to the shocked council. The human government will be given one chance to surrender. If they refuse, we will take their planet by force and make them slaves. And our Empire Council leader Hyjin tried one more time to change his mind. The humans have friends among the council, she said. Many species trade with them and respect their courage. Are you sure you want to risk war with their allies? Taemin laughed again, showing his sharp teeth. Their allies are weak traders and peaceful explorers, he said. None of them will risk their own planets to save the humans when we conquer Earth. The other species will see our strength and respect our power. As the Vorthan delegation left the hall, the remaining council members sat in stunned silence. They all knew what was coming, but none of them could stop it. The Vorthan Empire was too strong and too determined to be talked out of their invasion. Elder Dongwu spoke first in his ancient voice. Like Wayne through old trees, I have lived for 3,000 years, he said, and I have never seen a species make such a terrible mistake. Young So Young looked around at the other delegates. What should we do? She asked. Can we warn the humans about what is coming? Council leader Hyjin shook her crystal head sadly. The humans already know, she said. Their spy networks are better than most people think. They will be ready for what is coming. The question is whether the galaxy will be ready for what the humans do next, she added quietly, because when cornered, humans do not behave like any other species in the universe. They become something else entirely. As the council meeting ended, the delegates went back to their homeworlds with heavy hearts. They all knew they were about to witness something that would change the galaxy forever. The Vorthan Empire was about to learn why no species had ever successfully conquered Earth and why the humans were the most feared warriors in the galaxy, even though most aliens did not know it yet. General Kite stood in the middle of the Pentagon War Room looking at the giant holographic display that showed space around Earth. The display was full of red dots moving toward their planet. Each red dot was a Vorthan warship, and there were 10,000 of them approaching like a swarm of angry bees. The general was an old man with gray hair and scars on his face from many battles. He had fought in the border wars against space pirates and knew what real combat looked like. His eyes were calm as he studied the enemy fleet, even though everyone around him was scared. Sir, said Colonel Minho as he walked up to the general carrying a tablet computer. The alien fleet will reach Earth in 6 days. Our intelligence reports say they expect to win quickly. They think we will surrender without much fighting. General Kite smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who knew something his enemies did not know. They do not know us very well, do they? He said in a quiet voice that somehow made everyone in the room feel better. Across the room, Admiral Sujin was talking to officers from the space fleet. She was a tough woman who had commanded ships in battles against alien raiders. Her voice was strong and clear as she gave orders to prepare Earth defenses. All civilian populations are being moved to the underground cities, she announced. The surface military bases are being prepared for alternative uses. Every major city on Earth had been built with huge bunkers underneath that could hold millions of people. The bunkers had been built after first contact with aliens, when humans realized they might need to hide from space attacks. The human strategy was completely different from what other species would do. Most aliens would build bigger fleets and better weapons to fight the invaders. But humans had spent 50 years preparing for exactly this kind of attack. They knew they could not win a fair fight in space, so they planned to make the Fight, unfair. Captain Jeho was the leader of the Special Operations Division. He stood in front of his team of elite soldiers explaining their mission. Remember, he said, we are not trying to win the space battle. We want them to come down to the planet where we can fight them on our terms. His soldiers nodded because they understood the plan. Make the space battle so expensive that the aliens would have to land on Earth to finish the job, and once they landed, the humans would show them what real fighting looked like. In laboratories across the planet, scientists like Dr. Yuna day and night to adapt human technology for the coming war. If their shields can stop our bullets, she said to her team, then we will use railguns that shoot metal faster than bullets. If railguns do not work, we will use explosives. If explosives do not work, we will ram them with our ships. The human approach was simple but deadly. For every alien advantage, they would find 10 different ways to counter it. They did not need the best technology. They needed the most creative minds and the willingness to try anything. Dr. Yuna and her team had been studying captured alien technology for years. They knew the Vorthan shields were strong against energy weapons but weaker against physical attacks, so they designed weapons that threw chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Meanwhile, in the underground factories, workers were building thousands of small robots that could carry explosives. These robots looked like harmless cleaning machines, but they were actually mobile bombs that could hide anywhere in a city. The human military had learned important lessons from studying alien invasions of other planets. Most species tried to fight aliens the same way aliens fought each other, with energy weapons and shields and formal battles, but humans decided to fight like humans. Every human civilian received basic military training in school. They learned to shoot guns, make explosives, and fight with knives. They learned to hide in buildings and attack from shadows. They learned that sometimes the best weapon was not a gun, but a clever idea factory. Worker Namjin was typical of many humans. He worked in a car factory during the day, but at night, he practiced urban warfare with his neighbors. They learned to turn their neighborhood into a maze of traps and hiding places. They practiced fighting in sewers and abandoned buildings. The humans had studied every alien invasion in galactic history. They noticed that aliens always expected other species to fight like civilized beings, following rules and using proper military tactics. But humans had decided that survival was more important than following rules. Engineer Bio Kyung worked in a team that was preparing the cities for invasion. They installed hidden cameras everywhere, so humans could watch the aliens even when hiding. Underground, they prepared to destroy bridges and tunnels to slow down alien vehicles. They even planned to flood entire sections of cities if necessary. The most important part of human preparation was psychological. They knew they could not match alien technology, but they could match alien determination. In fact, they planned to exceed it. Every human soldier was taught that losing was not an option. Even if they died, they had to make their death count for something. In the space stations around Earth, Admiral Sujin met with her ship commanders. We cannot win a traditional space battle, she told them bluntly, so we will not fight a traditional space battle. We will fight like humans, which means we will fight dirty. The human space fleet was small, but every ship had been modified for maximum damage. Even the smallest fighter could carry enough explosives to destroy a much larger alien ship. The humans planned to use suicide attacks, ramming, and any other tactic that would hurt the enemy. General Kite held a meeting with all the military leaders from around the world. The aliens think they are invading a normal planet, he said, but they are not invading a normal planet. They are invading Earth, and Earth fights back. Every human city had become a fortress. Every human building was a potential weapon. Every human citizen was a potential soldier. The aliens were expecting to fight an army, but they were about to fight an entire planet. The human strategy was based on one simple idea: make the invasion so costly that the aliens would regret ever coming to Earth. Show them that humans would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Prove that Earth was not worth conquering because the price would be too high. In the final hours before the alien fleet arrived, General Kite stood on the roof of the Pentagon looking up at the stars. Soon those stars would be filled with enemy ships trying to destroy his world, but he was not afraid because he knew something the aliens did not know. He knew that humans were not just defending their planet, they were defending their right to exist. As free beings, and when humans fought for freedom, they became the most dangerous creatures in the universe. The aliens were about to learn that there was a big difference between conquering a planet and conquering the human spirit, and the human spirit was something that could not be destroyed by any weapon in the galaxy. As the countdown to invasion began, every human on Earth prepared for the fight of their lives. They were scared, but they were also determined. They knew the odds were against them, but they also knew that humans specialized in beating impossible odds. The Vorthan Empire was about to discover that invading Earth was the worst mistake they had ever made. The massive Vorthan fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like a cloud of metal. Death Commander Wusung stood on the bridge of his flagship looking at the tactical display with satisfaction. 10,000 warships stretched across space in perfect formation, ready to crush the primitive human resistance. Look at them, he said to his officers, pointing at the small group of human ships approaching their fleet. 300 ships against 10,000. They must be coming to surrender. There is no other logical explanation, but Admiral Sujin had no intention of surrendering. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the alien fleet with grim determination. Her voice was calm and steady as she spoke into the communication system. All ships execute Plan Omega. Show them what humans do when cornered. The human fleet did not behave like any military force the Vorthan had ever seen. Instead of forming defensive lines or trying to retreat, the human ships accelerated directly toward the alien fleet at maximum speed. Every human ship was loaded with explosives, and their crews were prepared to deal. Commander Wusung watched in disbelief as the first wave of human ships smashed into his fleet. What are they doing? He screamed at his tactical officer. They are ramming us directly. This is not how space battles work. The human destroyer Earth's Fury, commanded by Captain Jeho, crashed into a Vorthan cruiser at incredible speed. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from Earth. The single human ship destroyed itself, but took 3 alien ships with it in the blast. This is insane, shouted the Vorthan tactical officer as more human ships rammed into their fleet. They are actually destroying themselves to hurt us. No civilized species fights like this, but the humans were just getting started. As the space battle continued, the orbital defense platforms around Earth revealed their true purpose. Instead of energy weapons, they launched thousands of metal rods accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic fields. The Vorthan shields were designed to stop energy beams and plasma bolts, but the simple metal rods punched through them like arrows through paper. The primitive kinetic weapons caused massive damage to the advanced alien ships. Commander Wusung could not believe what he was seeing. How can metal rods defeat our shields? He demanded from his science officer. The science officer looked terrified as he studied his instruments. Sir, the rods are moving so fast they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. Our shields cannot stop physical objects at those speeds. Captain Min-Su piloted a small human fighter loaded with nuclear warheads straight toward the Vorthan command ship. This is Eagle 7 beginning final approach, he said calmly into his radio. It has been an honor serving with you. All the explosion that followed destroyed the command ship and damaged dozens of other vessels. The blast was so powerful it created a temporary star in space visible from the surface of Earth. The Vorthan fleet was in complete chaos. They had expected a civilized battle with proper tactics and rules of engagement. Instead, they faced an enemy that turned every ship into a weapon and every battle into a suicide mission. What kind of species are these humans? Demanded Commander Wusung as his damaged fleet tried to regroup. They fight like madmen with no regard for their own lives. His science officer had been studying the human tactics. Our intelligence reports were wrong, sir, he said with fear in his voice. The humans are not fighting to win. They are fighting to make us pay the highest price possible for victory. The human space fleet was being destroyed, but they were taking massive numbers of alien ships with them. Every time a human ship died, it seemed to take 2 or 3 Vorthan vessels in the explosion. Admiral Sujin watched her fleet being destroyed from her command bunker on Earth, but she was not discouraged. Phase 1 complete, she announced to her officers. The aliens will have to land on the surface to finish the job. The space battle lasted for 12 hours. At the end, the human fleet was gone, but half of the Vorthan invasion force had been destroyed. The aliens had won the battle, but at a cost they had never imagined. Possible Commander Wu Sung surveyed the wreckage of his fleet with growing horror. His 10,000 ships had been reduced to 5,000 in a single day of fighting. Against an enemy that was supposed to be primitive and helpless, sir, his aide reported nervously. The humans are broadcasting a message from their planet. The message was simple but terrifying, Admiral. Su Jin appeared on the screen in her military uniform, her eyes blazing with determination. You came to our system to conquer us, she said in a voice that echoed across space. But you do not understand what you are fighting. She paused and smiled a smile that made the alien officers shiver. We are not just defending our planet, she continued. We are defending our right to exist as free beings and humans who fight for freedom. Become something you have never seen before. The message ended, but the words haunted every alien in the fleet. They had expected to fight soldiers, but they were beginning to realize they were fighting something much more dangerous. They were fighting an entire species that had decided death was better than slavery. Commander Wu Sung knew he had no choice but to continue the invasion. His fleet was damaged, but still powerful enough to destroy the human cities from space. However, the humans had prepared for this possibility. Too, as the Vorthan ships moved toward Earth, they discovered that the planet was protected by a network of hidden weapons. The humans had built railguns inside mountains and missile launchers in the ocean. Every major city was surrounded by defensive systems that the aliens could not see from space. The orbital bombardment began. But the humans had prepared for this too. Their important facilities were all underground, and their military bases were designed to be destroyed and rebuilt quickly. After 3 days of bombardment, Commander Wu Sung realized that destroying the cities was not enough. He would have to land his ground forces and fight the humans on the surface. This was exactly what the humans had wanted all along. The space battle had been just the beginning. The real war was about to start on Earth, where the humans would have every advantage and where their creativity and determination would be unleashed in ways the aliens could never imagine. As the first Vorthan dropships headed toward Earth's surface, Commander Wu Sung had a terrible feeling that he was making the biggest mistake of his life. The humans had already shown they would sacrifice everything to defend their freedom. Now they were about to show what they could do when fighting on their own ground with their backs against the wall and nothing left to lose except their lives. The Vorthan dropships landed in the ruins of New York City, expecting to find human armies waiting to fight them in organized battles. Instead, they found empty streets and silent buildings. The city looked like a ghost town where everyone had simply vanished. Lieutenant Biora crouched in the subway tunnels beneath the city with her team of 20 resistance fighters. She was young but tough, with short black hair and eyes that burned with determination. Around her neck she wore a necklace made from alien metal taken from crashed ships. Remember, she whispered to her team as they watched the alien soldiers through hidden cameras. We are not soldiers fighting an army. We are ghosts haunting invaders. The human strategy was completely different from anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of armies meeting in open battle, small groups of humans attacked from everywhere and nowhere. They used the entire planet as their weapon. Commander Wu Sung stood in what used to be Times Square, looking around at the empty buildings with growing unease. Where are their armies? He demanded from his officers. Where are their command centers? Why is everything so quiet? His aide, a young Vorthan warrior named Tawa, was studying his scanner nervously. Sir, we are detecting small groups of humans moving through the underground tunnels, but no large military formations. They seem to be using the city infrastructure as their base. The Vorthan had expected to fight human soldiers in uniform carrying proper weapons following military tactics. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that wore regular clothes and used everything as a weapon engineer. Nayeon worked in a hidden factory built inside an abandoned subway station. She led a team of civilians who had become weapons makers overnight. They took apart cars and washing machines and kitchen appliances to build bombs and traps. They destroyed our main factory, she said to her team as they worked by candlelight, so we built 10 smaller ones. They found our ammunition depot, so we learned to make bullets from kitchen knives and car parts. The human ability to adapt was becoming a nightmare for the Vorthan. When the aliens jammed their electronic communications, humans used mirrors to send light signals. When they destroyed their vehicles, humans used bicycles and skateboards. When they cut off their supply lines, humans ate rats and kept fighting. Captain J-Ho had survived the space battle when his ship was destroyed. He now led a group of survivors who lived in the sewer system beneath the city. They had learned to move through the tunnels like fish, through water appearing and disappearing without warning. The aliens are trying to establish a command post in the old city hall, he told his team through a radio made from spare parts. We will show them that humans do not give up their territory easily. What the Vorthen found most terrifying was the human attitude toward death while other species fought to live and surrender. When defeat was certain, humans seemed to fight to make their deaths count for something. Every human who died managed to take several aliens with them. Young Corporal Minjun was cornered by 5 Vorthen soldiers in a collapsed building. Instead of surrendering, he smiled and pulled the pins from all his grenades. His last words were, "See you in hell," which the aliens did not understand but found deeply disturbing. The Vorthen had advanced weapons and armor, but they were designed for fighting other advanced civilizations. They did not know how to combat an enemy that used bicycle chains as weapons and turned soup cans into bombs. Commander Wusung found himself fighting an enemy that did not follow any rules of warfare. His soldiers were being killed by traps made from household items, by explosives hidden in teddy bears, by fighters who appeared from manholes and attacked with garden tools. This is not war, his tactical officer complained after losing another patrol to a trap made from rope and gravity. This is madness. They are using the city itself as a weapon against us. But the humans were not mad. They were creative in ways that aliens could not understand. They saw potential weapons in everything around them. A streetlight became a spear, a car became a bomb, a building became a trap. Dr. Yuna had moved her laboratory to a hidden bunker where she continued developing new weapons from whatever materials they could find. When the aliens adapted to one type of attack, she invented 3 new ones. They learned to detect our explosive devices, she reported to the resistance leadership. So we developed acid weapons that eat through their armor. They figured out our radio frequencies, so we trained carrier pigeons to carry messages. The human capacity for innovation under extreme pressure was beyond anything the Vorthen had encountered in their conquests of other worlds. Every day the humans invented new ways to kill aliens using materials that should not have been weapons. Street cleaner Dong Hyen had become a master of urban warfare without any formal training. He knew every tunnel and hidden passage in his neighborhood. He could move through the ruins like a shadow and strike without warning. The aliens control the surface. During the day, he explained to new recruits, but at night the city belongs to us. We know every hiding spot, every trap, every secret passage. They are visitors here. We are home. The psychological effect on the Vorthen soldiers was devastating. They had expected to be occupying a conquered planet. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a hostile environment where everything was trying to kill them. Even the children were dangerous. Young Sujin was only 12 years old, but she had learned to make explosive devices from chemistry set materials and had personally destroyed 3 alien vehicles. Her parents were proud of her contribution to the resistance. The Vorthen soldiers began to crack under the constant pressure. They could not sleep because humans attacked at night. They could not eat because humans poisoned their food supplies. They could not communicate because humans jammed their signals. Commander Wusung realized that his army was slowly being destroyed, not by superior firepower but by the human refusal to accept defeat. Every building was a fortress. Every street was a battlefield. Every human civilian was a potential killer, sir, his aide reported with a shaking voice. We have lost contact with the 5th, 10th, 23rd, and 31st Battalions. The humans have somehow turned the city water system into a weapon. They flooded the underground areas where our troops were sheltering. The Vorthen Empire had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced anything like this. The humans had turned their entire planet into a living weapon that fought back against the invaders with intelligence and creativity. As the weeks passed, Commander Wusung watched his mighty invasion force slowly dissolve. Every victory came at a cost his people could not afford. Every advance was met with new horrors invented by human ingenuity. The humans were not just defending their world, they were teaching the aliens that some species could not be conquered because they would rather die fighting than live as slaves. and somehow that made them more dangerous than any weapon in the galaxy. 6 months after the invasion began, Commander Wusung stood alone in what had once been Central Park in New York City. The trees were gone, replaced by craters and twisted metal. The grass had been burned away by energy weapons, leaving only scorched earth behind. His mighty fleet of 10,000 ships had been reduced to fewer than 1,000 damaged vessels. His proud army of 5 million soldiers was now less than 800,000 exhausted and broken troops. Many of his best officers had been killed or driven insane by the constant human attack. Sir, his aide Tae-woo approached carefully. We have lost contact with the 47th, 52nd, and 61st Battalions. The humans have somehow turned the city water system into a weapon. They flooded the underground tunnels where our troops were hiding. Wusung looked at the tactical display with empty eyes that had seen too much death. Every victory had cost more than he could afford. Every advance had been met with new horrors invented by human creativity. The city had become a maze of death traps, and every shadow might hide a human fighter. The humans had done something that no other species in galactic history had ever accomplished. They had made an advanced alien army afraid to fight. They had turned their entire planet into a weapon that fought back with intelligence and determination. In the ruins of the Empire State Building, Captain Jae-ho led his resistance cell in their final mission. They had been fighting for months, living in sewers and abandoned buildings, eating whatever they could find, and never surrendering. Today, we take back our city, he told his team as they prepared their weapons made from scrap metal and household chemicals. The aliens think they have won because they control the surface, but they do not understand that humans never give up. The human resistance had learned to fight in ways that confused and terrified the aliens. They appeared from manholes and attacked with garden tools. They used children toys filled with explosives. They turned every building into a fortress and every street into a battlefield. Dr. Yuna had moved her laboratory 6 times as the aliens tried to find and destroy it. Each time she had rebuilt it in a new location using whatever materials she could salvage. Her latest weapons were made from kitchen appliances and car parts. They adapt to our explosives, she reported to the resistance leadership, so we developed acid weapons that eat through their armor. They figured out our radio signals, so we trained pigeons to carry messages. They learned our attack patterns, so we invented new ones every day. The turning point came when the human resistance captured a Vorthan communication array deep in the subway tunnels. Captain Jae-ho himself operated the alien equipment to broadcast a message that would echo across the galaxy. This is Earth calling all ships in the Vorthan fleet, he said, his voice carrying to every alien vessel in orbit. You came here to take our world, but you do not understand something important about humans. He paused and looked around at his team of fighters, dirty and tired, but still determined. We do not just live on Earth, he continued. We are Earth. Every tree, every rock, every drop of water is part of us, and Earth fights back. The message was broadcast on all frequencies, reaching not just the Vorthan fleet, but the entire galaxy. The humans had hijacked alien technology to tell the universe that they would never surrender. Within hours of the broadcast, something unexpected happened. The remaining Vorthan ships began to retreat from Earth orbit. The alien soldiers on the surface received orders to evacuate immediately. The invasion was over. Commander Wusung stood in the ruins of Times Square, watching his dropships take off with the last of his troops. He had been defeated not by superior weapons or larger armies, but by the human refusal to accept defeat. How did this happen? He asked his aide as they boarded the final evacuation ship. We had better technology, better training, better weapons. How did we lose to such a primitive species? Daewoo looked back at the ruined city where human fighters were already emerging from their hiding places to celebrate. They did not fight like soldiers, sir, he said quietly. They fought like humans. And apparently that is the most dangerous thing in the universe. The aftermath of the invasion was felt throughout the galaxy. Within days, the Galactic Council had passed Resolution 2847, officially designating Earth as a protected world, but not because humans needed protection. The resolution stated that Earth was protected because the galaxy needed protection from humans. The Council had realized that humanity was a species that could not be conquered and would fight with any available means to defend their freedom. Ambassador Taemin The Vorthan who had started the war was brought before the council as a prisoner. His blue scales had turned pale and his red eyes were filled with defeat. How he was asked by the council investigators, "How did your advanced civilization lose to such a primitive species?" His answer became legendary throughout the galaxy: "They did not fight like soldiers." He said in a broken voice, "They fought like humans, and that meant they would rather die than lose. They turned their entire planet into a weapon and used their creativity to make war into an art form." The invasion of Earth became a case study in military academies across the galaxy. Young alien officers studied the battle reports not to learn how to fight humans, but to understand why you should never try. The human victory had consequences that reached far beyond Earth. Other species facing impossible odds began to ask themselves, what would humans do? And somehow that question always led to new ways of fighting and surviving. General Kite surveyed the damage to his planet from the roof of the rebuilt Pentagon. Cities lay in ruins. Millions had died, but humanity had survived. More importantly, they had sent a message to the galaxy that some things were worth fighting. Fourth, humans had proven that the most advanced technology was useless against a species that refused to give up. They had shown that creativity and determination could overcome any advantage. They had taught the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one with nothing left to lose. Years later, when the story was told in schools across the galaxy, children would learn about the humans who turned their entire planet into a weapon and refused to surrender even when facing certain death. The tale became a legend that inspired other species to fight for their freedom. It showed that sometimes the most important battle was not for territory or resources, but for the right to exist as you choose. Council leader Hyjin wrote the final report that would be studied for generations. The humans of Earth have taught us that sometimes the most advanced civilization is the one that never forgets how to fight for what matters most. The galaxy had learned that humans were not just another species to be cataloged and studied. They were something new and dangerous and wonderful, a species that made war into art and turned survival into a virtue. And, most importantly, they had proven that the human spirit was a weapon more powerful than any technology in the universe, a force that could not be broken by any enemy, no matter how advanced or determined. The invasion of Earth was over, but the legend of human determination would live forever in the stars.